Abortion is health care, and we've been talking every week on this show about the consequences of banning it. ProPublica recently told the stories of two women, two mothers, whose deaths under Georgia's draconian 6-week abortion ban were deemed preventable by state health experts and blamed on the post-Roe abortion ban. Candy Miller was one of those women. Miller was a wife and the mother of 3 children. She had been diagnosed with lupus, diabetes, and hypertension, and doctors warned her that because of her health, having another baby could kill her. In November of 2022, Miller unexpectedly got pregnant, and because a strict abortion ban had already taken effect in Georgia, she was scared that even talking to a doctor about the possibility of getting an abortion could be incriminating. So Miller obtained abortion pills on her own. She took them at home, but her body was unable to expel all of the fetal tissue from her uterus, and her health deteriorated over the following days. She remained afraid to seek medical help, so she tried to manage the pain on her own. And she eventually died at home, in bed, with her 3-year-old daughter by her side. A state committee of maternal health experts reviewed her case and deemed her death preventable. A member of that committee told ProPublica, quote, "The fact that Miller felt that she had to make these decisions, that she didn't have adequate choices here in Georgia, we felt that definitely influenced her case. She's absolutely responding to this legislation," end quote. The vast majority of anti-abortion Republicans will tell you that they support so-called exceptions to their abortion bans, laws that would allow abortion for rape and incest survivors, or to save a woman's life. But women's lives are not being saved. And that's because exceptions to abortion bans are a lie. And anyone who has been paying the least bit of attention in the last 2 years since Roe v. Wade was overturned knows that these exceptions are a lie. You know that the exceptions are deliberately vague, and as a result, doctors are not performing emergency abortions when they're needed. They're forced to wait until a patient is close enough to dying that many of those patients will walk away with irreversible, life-altering medical consequences. And some, like Candy Miller, do not walk away at all. This week, Fulton County Superior Judge Robert McBurney struck down Georgia's 6-week abortion ban. In his opinion, he wrote, quote, "It is not for a legislator, a judge, or a commander from The Handmaid's Tale to tell these women what to do with their bodies during this period when the fetus cannot survive outside the womb any more so than society could or should force them to serve as a human tissue bank or to give up a kidney for the benefit of another," end quote. For now, that means abortion is legal again in the state of Georgia up to the point of fetal viability. But state Republicans are already appealing McBurney's ruling, working to reinstate this deadly abortion ban. It's hard to imagine taking such an indefensible position in the face of dead mothers, but that's what they're doing. And we should expect the same level of deliberate cruelty in anti-abortion policy to be carried to the federal level if Donald Trump is elected again. And this is important because Trump and his running mate, J.D. Vance, know that abortion bans are deeply unpopular. They know that abortion bans are deadly, and instead of changing their position, they've just come up with a new and creative way to lie about it. And it might actually be working. This week, you may have seen headlines echoing Trump's claim that he, quote, "would not support a federal abortion ban under any circumstances and would, in fact, veto it." That is a lie. But it's been a surprisingly effective lie because to know it's a lie, you need to know that Republicans and the anti-abortion movement are now lying about the definition of abortion ban. Since Roe was overturned, abortion bans have fallen out of favor, even among many Republican voters, as we have seen this gruesome parade of headlines telling horror stories of women denied and delayed life-saving health care. So the very Republicans who are responsible for ushering in this post-Roe dystopia are rebranding abortion bans, calling instead for a, quote, minimum national standard. What is a minimum national standard? It's a federal ban on abortion after a certain number of weeks. Any abortion ban by any other name is still an abortion ban, but calling it a minimum national standard allows politicians to pretend that they don't support a federal abortion ban. Listen to how J.D. Vance pulled off this lie in Tuesday's vice presidential debate.
In the past, you have supported a federal ban on abortion after 15 weeks. My question is, why have you changed your position?
Well, Nora, first of all, I never supported a national ban. I did when I was running for Senate in 2022 talk about setting some minimum national standard.
A national ban and a minimum national standard are the same thing. The minimum national standard Vance admits to supporting in that very same clip is the 15-week ban that the moderator Norah O'Donnell cites in her question. Republicans will pass a federal abortion ban if given the chance. The fact that they are taking such pains to disguise their intent tells you how unpopular and dangerous abortion bans actually are. Joining me now, Jessica Valenti. She's a journalist who's been documenting the changes happening in America post-Dobbs on her Substack, Abortion Every Day. And she's also the author of the essential and brand new book, Abortion, Our Bodies, Their Lies, and the Truths We Use to Win. Jessica, thank you for being with us. As I mentioned, anti-abortion groups have switched up the meaning of some words and terms without telling the rest of us. Tell us more about how these groups are weaponizing language to their advantage right now.
I'm so glad we're talking about this because I don't think enough Americans understand exactly what they're doing, and it's so incredibly important. As you said, they are using ban and national minimum standard or federal restrictions sort of interchangeably, but the way that they're getting away with that is by redefining the word ban. Their claim is that abortion ban only refers to a total prohibition on abortion without exceptions, even for women's lives. So under that definition, America has no abortion bans. Texas, Tennessee, they don't have abortion bans because there's an exception there, supposedly, for women's lives. And it's such an incredible lie because, as you said, the abortion bans that Republicans are proposing are these 15-week bans that have exceptions. But because they have those exceptions in them, Republicans can sort of do this rhetorical dance and say, that's not a ban, that's a federal restriction. But because voters don't know that, they're getting a skewed view of what these politicians, what these Republicans actually think about abortion.
We know that exceptions don't work. We've been reporting on this every single week. You've literally been reporting on it every single day. They are simply barriers to care. And in your book, you write, quote, "The truth is that when Republicans sit down to write exceptions, they do so with the sole intent of excluding as many people as possible." I spoke a little bit about why exceptions for the life of the woman don't work. Tell us more about the other most common exceptions, those for rape and incest, and why they, too, don't actually work in practice.
Sure. Well, as you said, these are specifically designed not to work, right? That is the entire point of them. For rape and incest, let's take a state like Mississippi, right? Mississippi supposedly has an exception for rape victims, but there's not one doctor in Mississippi who is willing to give a rape victim an abortion because the consequences for performing an abortion are so high. And so that's not really an accessible exception. The other thing that they do is they write exceptions specifically tailored to rape and incest, right? What do we know about rape victims? Most people know that rape victims do not report to the police. And so when Republicans get in a room to write a rape exception, they say, you know what? We're going to mandate that they have to report to police. We're going to mandate that they have to bring a police report or some sort of evidence to prove that they were really raped. And so they're writing these exceptions to make sure that rape victims cannot use them. And the cruelty of that is just astounding.
The chapter in your book called "The Punishment is the Point," in which you write about the effort to criminalize abortion. Quote, "For years, anti-abortion legislators and groups have claimed that they have no interest in seeing women arrested for abortion, and for just as long, women have been targeted anyway. Even before Roe was overturned, women were being arrested and prosecuted for abortion, stillbirth, miscarriage, and more." This helps explain the case of Candy Miller, the woman in Georgia who was too afraid to seek medical care after experiencing an incomplete abortion at home. She ended up dying at home in her bed. Her family told ProPublica she was under the impression that she could be arrested for having an abortion. Sounds like that was not an unreasonable fear. Yeah.
It's not an unreasonable view. You know, if you look at someone like Brittany Watts in Ohio, who was arrested for abuse of a corpse, for flushing her miscarriage. There was a case recently out of South Carolina where a woman was arrested for murder because she lost her pregnancy and she was walking around at home with an ankle bracelet on. You're talking about people who have gone through traumatic pregnancy losses being criminalized. And of course, the people that they are targeting are overwhelmingly marginalized or overwhelmingly overwhelmingly poor women, women of color, Black women in particular. And they do that because they think that no one will care. They think that if they go after the most vulnerable among us, that most American voters will not care.
This business about abortion bans with the exception with exceptions, given that they are essentially de facto almost total abortion bans, is that the end game for the anti-abortion movement? They never actually have to say these are full abortion bans. They're just restricted abortions.
I mean, really, the end game is full abortion bans, no exceptions. If you actually talk to the leaders of the anti-abortion movement, you talk to the groups who are behind these policies, they will admit that if you sort of get to the heart of it with them. If you look at a group like Susan B. Anthony, Pro-Life America, they were in Tennessee right after Roe was overturned, trying to convince Tennessee legislators not to add an exception for women's lives into the law. That is how badly they want there to be zero exceptions. And the important thing to remember is that the end game isn't even just abortion bans. It's the end of birth control. It's restrictions on women's right to travel, to leave the state for abortion care in pro-choice states. This is very much about trapping women, erasing them from the public sphere, trapping them in the private sphere, ensuring they're forever pregnant, and really reinforcing those traditional gender norms and binaries that they're so obsessed with.
Jessica, good to have you here. Thank you for joining us this morning. Jessica Valenti is the author of the new book, Abortion, Our Bodies, Their Lies, and the Truths We Use to Win.